Om Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Viknopashantaye. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Bhavet Om Shanti 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 Agajanana Patmarkam Gajanana Maharnisham Anekadantam Bhaktanam Ekadantam Upasmahe Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha Gurave Sarva Lokanam Bhishaje Bhavaroginam Nidaye Sarva Vidyanam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Asmad Guru Charanara Vindhabhyam Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Januramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Jnananandamayam Devam Nirmalaspatika Kritim Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Shri Hayagrivam Upasmahe Shri Hayagrivamurthaye Namaha Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambam Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sadha Shri Mahasaraswatye Namaha Uma Komala Hastabja Sambhavitalatakam Hiranyakundalam Bandhe Kumaram Pushkarasrajam Vetrivel Muruganek Har Hara Lokaviryam Mahapujyam Sarvarakshakaram Vibhum Parvati Hridayanandam Shastaram Pranamamyaham Swami Sharanamayappa Vagarta Viva Sampraktau Vagarta Pratipattaye Jagadav Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau Shri Parvati Parameshwarabhyam Namaha Komalam Kujayan Venum Shyamaloyam Kumarakah Veda Vedyam Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Asmad Guru Charanara Vindhabhyam Namaha Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare Shri Natha Narayana Vasudeva Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare Shri Natha Narayana Vasudeva Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare Shri Natha Narayana Vasudeva Pītāmbharam Karavirajita Chakrashanka Kaumodaki Sarasijam Karunasamudram Radha Sahayam Atisundaramandahasam Vatalayesham Anisham Hridibhavayami Krishno Rakshatu Mam Charachara Guruhu Krishnam Namasye Sadha Krishne Naiva Surakshito Hamasakritam Krishnaya Dattam Manaha Krishna Deva Samudbhavo Mama Vibho Krishnasya Dhasosmyaham Krishne Bhakti Rachancalastu Bhagavan He Krishna Tubhyam Namaha Shri Guru Vayurappa Sharanam Namranam Sannidhatte Satatamapi Purastairanabhyartitanapi Artan Kamhanajasram Vitaradi Paramananda Sandram Gatim Cha Itham Nisheshalabhyo Niravadika Phalaha Parijato Hare Tvam Kshudram Tam Shakravati Dhrumam Abhilashadi Vyartamarte Vrajohyam Shri Guru Vayurappa Sharanam Shri Bhattapadam Anisham Hridibhavayami Vamshi Vibhushitakarat Navaniradabat Pītāmbharat Arunabhimba Phaladroshtat Purnendu Sundara Mukhat Aravinda Netrat Krishnat Param Kimapi Tattvamaham Najane Kairandum Kupinyan Vindumi Rakkunnu Niraja Lochana Ninodhai Etinu Manyane Kumbidenda Toru Ritiyil Nihenne Palikennai Krishna Hare Jaya Krishna Hare Jaya Krishna Hare Jaya Krishna Hare. Welcome everyone. Good evening and happy Tamil New Year and Vishu to everybody. And sorry for the delay in starting today. So because we're out of time, we'll skip the review of 98 and then we'll just continue with the class. Okay, because we have a lot to cover today. All right, so Purna, can you be a student for the first half?
Rajesh ji, my daughter, she's cranky today.
Oh, no worries. Gopi ji, you can be a student. And then let me just see who else I had here. Rupa, you can be a student. Okay. All right. So we stopped at 9, right, of 98. So we'll go to the 10th one. Satyam Shuddham Vibuddham Jayati Tava Vapuhu Nityamuktam Niriham Nirdvandvam Nirvikaram Nikhila Gunagana Vyanjanadhara Bhutam Nirmulam Nirmalam Tan Niravadi Mahimollasi Nirlinamantaha Nisanghanam Muninam Nirupama Paramananda Sandra Prakasham. So continuing, so here again in this also Bhattaripad is repeating a little bit, right, of the Brahman, which says that that Brahman Nirguna form of yours, right? He's saying how it is, like we discussed in the beginning also, right? It is not bound by anything. It is completely pure. It is, so we always say opposites, right? Good, bad, or, man, woman, anyways, it's beyond all those opposites. And then it is completely changeless. It doesn't change. It remains static through everything. And even in the hearts of everybody who's devoted to you, in the hearts of this, I'm sorry, I'm just calling my son. In the hearts of everybody who's thinking about you, it is resting in a latent form. It is resting in a latent form. And then it eventually, when it gets triggered, it then comes and then you are shining, right? So sorry, guys. I don't know how to turn this off. I think his FaceTime keep calling. Okay, so sorry, Nikki, buying disturbances. When I turn this off, I keep declining. I got these teenagers, unbelievable. Okay, Satyam Shuddham Vibhuddham Jayati Tava Vapuhu. That put a visarga there after Vapu. Put a visarga and a comma, vapuhu. On top of that ni, you will have a ir, so remove that. So then comma, vapuhu. Next word is nitya muktam niriham, comma. Nirdvandvam nirvikaram, comma. Nikhila guna gana vyanjanadhara bhutam. Satyam Shuddham Vibuddham Jayati Tava Vapuhu Nityamuktam Niriham Nirdvandvam Nirvikaram Nikhila Gunagana Vyanjanadhara Bhutam. Oh, go ahead.
Go first.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Satyam Shuddham Vibuddham Jayati Tava Vapuhu Nityamuktam Niriham Nirdvandvam Nirvikaram Nikhila Gunagana Vyanjanadhara Bhutam.
The first line, you can go continuous till Vapuhu. Okay.
Okay. Satyam Shuddham Vibuddham Jayati Tava Vapuhu Nityamuktam Niriham Nirdvandvam Nirvikaram Nikhila Gunagana Vyanjanadhara Bhutam.
Satyam Shuddham Vibhuddham Jayati Tava Vapuhu Nityamuktam Niriham Nirdvandvam Nirvikaram Nikhila Gunagana Vyanjana Dhara Bhutam. Satyam Shuddham Vibhuddham Jayati Tava Vapuhu Nityamuktam Niriham Nirdvandvam Nirvikaram Nikhila Gunagana Vyanjana Dhara Bhutam.
And just one small correction. You're saying Vyanjana Dhara, I mean, you're kind of taking a small pause there, and the Vyanjanadhara is kind of together. So Vyanjanadhara Bhutam. Okay, so you try to say it and the portion continues.
Vyanjanadhara Bhutam.
Yeah. Nirmulam Nirmalam, comma, Tan Niravadi Mahimollasi Nirlina Mantaha. Put a visarga there and comma. Nirlina Mantaha, comma. Next line on top of that ni, if you have a ir, remove that off. Nis Sanganam Muninam, comma. Nirupama Paramananda Sandra Prakasham. Nirmulam Nirmalam तन्निरवधि महिमोल्लासि निर्लीनमन्तः निस्सङ्गानां मुनीनां निरुपम परमानन्द सान्द्र प्रकाशम्.
निर्मूलं निर्मलं तन्निरवधि महिमोल्लासि निर्लीनमन्तः निस्सङ्गमानं मुनीनां निरुपम परमानन्द सान्द्र प्रकाशम्.
Gopiji, that fourth line, nissanganam muninam.
Nissanganam muninam.
Yeah.
Okay. Nirmulam nirmalam tanniravadhi mahimollasi nirleenamantaha nissanganam muninam nirupama paramananda sandra prakasham.
Nirmulam nirmalam tanniravadi mahimollasi nirmalamantaha
Nirleenamantaha.
Nirleenamantaha nissanganam muninam nirupama paramananda sandra prakasham. Nirmulam nirmalam tanniravadi mahimollasi nirleenamantaha nissanganam muninam nirupama paramananda sandra prakasham.
Stanza 11. Durvaram dvadasharam trishata parimilat shashti parvabhivitam sambhramyat krura vegam kshanamanu jagadachitya sandhavamanam chakram te kala rupam vyatayatu natu mam tvatpadeikavalambham Vishno karunya sindho pavanapurapate pahi sarvamayoghat. So there are a few stanzas which you can kind of mark and keep. Those are things you can kind of say on an everyday basis, right? So this is one such stanza, because this is kind of directly, because in most of the other stanzas, of course, everything in this chapter you can chant every day, right? But there are some stanzas where are other things tied into it. So here, this stanza is directly an appeal, right? So where he says that this irreversible, the chakram, right? Or there's a wheel of time, which he says has, Trishata means 300, right? So it has got 300 spokes, approximately, referring to 300 days. And it has got Dvadasharam, it's got 12 spokes and 360, teats at the end. So referring to the wheel of time. So this wheel of time, as it is actually going and cutting through the universe with a full speed, it doesn't stop for anybody, right? The time is constantly moving. And as the time is constantly moving, it actually causes a lot of problems for people. Because if you are happy now, and if I freeze time, then you will remain that way, right? But we don't know what's going to come tomorrow. So this wheel of time, as it's actually cutting through the universe, it is causing a lot of problems. It causes a lot of troubles. But then it says, for me, for which your feet is the only refuge for me. So for me, for your feet is the only refuge. May this not may this not torment me. May this not trouble me. So even as the time is going on, I'm completely surrendering to you. So let this not trouble me. O Vishnu, Karunya Sindhu, you are an ocean full of compassion. Pavana Purapate, Lord of Guruvayur, please remove all my ailments, right? So it's kind of one of those stanzas where he's directly praying and saying, I'm completely surrendering to you. And as time goes on, not just today, but even in the future, let me not be tormented by anything that is happening. So Durvaram Dvadasharam, Trishata Parimilat Shashti Parvabhivitam, Sambhramyat Krura Vegam, Kshanamanu Jagadachidya Sandhavamanam. Durvaram Dvadasharam Trishata Parimilat Shashti Parvabhivitam Sambhramyat Krura Vegam Kshanamanu Jagadachitya Sandhavamanam.
Durvaram Dvadasharam Trishata Parimilat Shashti Parvabhivitam Sambhramyat Krura Vegam Kshanamanu Jagadachidya Sandhavamanam. Durvaram Dvadasharam Trishata Parimilat Shashti Parvabhivitam Sambhramyat Krura Vegam Kshanamanu Jagadachidya Sandhavamanam.
दुर्वारं द्वादशारं त्रिशतपरिमिलत् षष्टि पर्वाभिवीतं सम्भ्राम्यात् क्रूरवेगं क्षणमनुजगदाच्छिद्य सन्धावमानम्.
And second line, first word, sambhramyat.
Sambhramyat.
Yeah.
Durvaram dvadasharam trishataparimilat shashti parvabhivitam sambhramyat krooravegam kshanamanujagadachidya sandhavamanam.
Chakram te kala roopam, comma, vyatha yatu natumam tvat padaikava lambham. Tvatpadaikava lambham, comma, Vishnu karunya sindho, comma, pavana purapate, pause again, pahi sarva mayoghat. Chakram te kala roopam vyatayatu natumam tvatpadaikava lambham Vishnu karunya sindho pavana purapate pahi sarva mayoghat.
Chakram te kalarupam vyadhayatu natumam tvatpadaikavalambam Vishnu karunya sindho pavanapurapade pahi sarvamayaughata. Chakram te kalarupam vyadhayatu natumam tvatpadaikavalambam Vishnu karunya sindho pavanapurapade pahi sarvamayaughata.
Chakram te kala roopam yatayatu natumam tvatpadaikavalambham Vishnu karunya sindho pavanapurapate pahi sarvamayoghat. Chakram te kala roopam yatayatu natumam Vatpadaikavalambam Vishnu karunya sindho pavanapurapate pahi sarvamayoghat.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. That completes 98. So 99 is more like the praise of the Lord, and 99 it kind of takes a lot of the mantra, Veda summation of a lot of the Rig Veda and Taittiriya Upanishads and all that, and it kind of condenses each of that and essentially praises the Lord. All the 10 stanzas are kind of the praise of the Lord, right? So even in the end of the 99th stanza, in 99th chapter, last stanza, right? Bhattacharya say that all these praise I did to you in the first 9 stanzas of the 99th chapter, right, where it describes the Lord, it says, it is still, I am not able to associate myself with praying or associating myself with something which doesn't have a shape, I cannot identify with anything. I can't identify with you still, right? So he says, so even though the Vedas praise you this way, even though it defines you that way, for me, you, which is in the form of the pure sattvic gunam in front of me, that is the only thing it works for me. So I am going to resort to idol worship. That's what he kind of says that and wraps at the very end of the 99th chapter, saying I'm going to resort to worship of this idol, which I'm seeing in front of me. So with that, he wraps it up. So we'll now start with the 100th chapter. So the 100th chapter is where, like he sees the entire vision of the Lord, and then he starts from the hair and then goes till the feet of the Lord, right? So we'll cover this. Has got 11 stanzas. So we'll somehow, even if it takes a few minutes today, we'll finish this chapter off. Stanza 1. Agre pashyami tejo nibidatara kalha yavali lobhaniyam piyusha plavitoham tadanu tadudare divya kaishorhavesham tarunyarambharamyam parama sukarasaswada romanchitangaihi Avitam Naradhadhyehi Vilasadupanishat Sundari Mandalaischa. So Bhattacharya is sitting in the mandapam in Guruvayur. For those who have been, right, it is when you enter it, it's maybe the left or the right side. And of course, at that time, we didn't have all the structures. So he then starts off by saying Agre. Agre means right in front of me. So right in front of me, Pashyami, I am seeing. So right in front of me, I'm seeing this blue hue, this blue color, which is kind of, filling that entire space in front of me, right? So initially he's not able to zoom in and see who it is or what is happening. He says, I'm just seeing something which is completely blue. And he compares this to Kalaya. Kalaya is a blue color flowers that you get. So he says it's completely as if that place is flooded with the blue color flowers. And when I'm looking at it, right, I am Piyusha Plavitoham. It's as if I am sucking in that sight, the nectar. It's like as if I'm drinking in nectar. My sight is getting filled with that, and he's feeling a state of bliss at that point. And then he says, in the center of that blue hue, I am actually seeing now a youth form. So that's why he says Kaishora Vesham. Means Kaishora is from the root word Kishora. Kishora means somebody who's youth, 16 kind of age, right? So he's saying, I'm seeing in that thing, I'm seeing a form which is of a youth, right? So as a youth, it's very energetic, which is very strong, right? And a very beautiful form of youth I'm actually seeing. And so he's not seeing the Lord in the form of Chaturbhujam. So that's a Venu Gopala Rupam of the Lord, the form of the Lord in the form of a youth, right? And then he's saying, then surrounding that Lord now, I am actually beginning to see all the, the Vedas and the Upanishads, all of them. And being a poet, he says he's surrounded by women, but then he's saying more, it's the Upanishads and everything which are being represented in the form of women. And I'm seeing all the other sages who are actually praying to the Lord as well. But that's what he's initially seeing is I'm just seeing a complete blue color. And in the middle of that, I'm actually seeing a youth-like form. And then he's feeling a state of bliss right now. So Agre Pashyami Tejo Nibidathara Kalayavali. You can kind of say that together. Kalayavali Lobhaniyam. So that entire line is together, no pause. Lobhaniyam, comma. Piyusha Plavitoham. Again, that word continues. Piyusha Plavitoham, comma. Tadanu Tadudare Divya Kaishora Vesham. Agre Pashyami Tejo Nibidathara Kalayavali Lobhaniyam. Piyusha Plavitoham. Tadanu Tadudare Divya Kaishora Vesham.
Agre Pashyami Tejo Nimidatara Kalayavali Lobhaniyam. Piyusha Plavitoham. Tadanu Tadudare Divya Kaishora Vesham. Agre Pashyami Tejo Nibidatara Kalayavali Lobhaniyam. Piyusha Plavitoham. Tadanu Tadudare Divya Kaishora Vesham.
Agre Pashyami Tejo Nibidatara Kalayavali Lobhaniyam. Piyusha Plavitoham. Tadanu Tadudare Divya Kaishora Vesham. Agre Pashyami Tejo Nibidatara Kalayavali Lobhaniyam. Piyusha Plavitoham. Tadanu Tadudare Divya Kaishora Vesham.
Tarunya Rambha Ramyam, comma, Parama Sukha Rasaswada Romanchitangaihi. So Romanchitangaihi, put a visarga there and a comma. Next line, Ravitam, that you have changed it to Avitam. So Avitam Naradadhyehi. So put a visarga there and comma, Naradadhyehi. Next line, on top of that V, if you have a ir, you can remove that. So Vilasat Upanishad Sundari Mandalaischa. Tarunyarambharamyam Parama Sukarasaswada Romanchitangaihi Avitam Naradadhyehi Vilasad Upanishad Sundari Mandalaischa.
Tarunyarambharamyam Paramasukharasaswadya Romanjitangaihi Avidam Naranadhyaihi Vilasadupanishat Sundari Mandalaischa. Tarunyarambharamyam Paramasukharasaswada Romanjitangaihi Avidam Naranadhyaihi Vilasadupanishat Sundari Mandalaischa.
Tarunyarambharamyam Paramasukharasa Swadaromajitangaihi Avitam Naradadhyehi Vilasadupanishat Sundari Mandalaischa. Tarunyarambharamyam Paramasukharasa Swadaromajitangaihi Avitam Naradadhyehi विलसदुपनिषत् सुन्दरी मण्डलैश्च.
Stanza 2. नीलाभं कुञ्चिताग्रं घनममलतरं संयतं चारुभङ्ग्या रत्नोत्तंसाभिरामं बलयितमुदयच्चन्द्रकैः पिञ्चजालैः मन्दारस्रङ्निवीतं तव पृथुखबरी भारमालोकयेऽहं स्निग्धश्वेतोर्ध्वपुण्ड्रामपि च सुललितां फालबालेन्दुवीतीम्. So next, so like he says, he starts with the head first, right? And we'll see why that is, why he starts there and ends up with the feet later. So first he says, I see, aloke, I'm able to see in front of me now, tava prutu khabari, your hair, which is bharam, which is like a luscious hair, which I'm seeing. So it's like, nana curly hair, which I'm seeing in front of me, which is ghanam amalataram. So malam means dirty, amalam means pure. So pure in the sense clean. So clean hair, which is ghanam, which is very thick. So thick, clean hair, and which is curly hair as well. And this hair is held together very nicely with Valai Udaya Chandrake, with the peacock feather. And he says in the peacock feather, and he says even that it is shining. So the eye of the peacock is also very clearly visible, right? So of the peacock feather. So it is now held together by a peacock feather, which is very visible. And then you have on top of that a crown on your head, which is then holding your hair as well. And then in addition to that, it is then circled, which he says by a mandara, with the mandara flowers means yellow flowers. So on, it is a crown, then he has a peacock feather, and then he also has a like a set of yellow flowers around this as well. And then he comes down, and then he says on your forehead. So this forehead is a very smooth forehead, and in that I'm seeing a white mark. So the sandalwood mark, which is the tilakam which the Lord is wearing, he says this sandalwood mark is so thin that it is as if it is Bala Indu, means a very nascent stage of the moon. So the fifth day moon, where it is a very thin sliver of the moon, and it's supposed to be the brightest. So it is as if it is a very thin sliver of the moon, but it's white sandalwood mark, which is actually on your wide forehead. So he's now saying, I'm now seeing this on your head. I'm seeing the crown, and then I'm seeing this sandalwood mark on your forehead. So Neelabham. So as we go through this, you can kind of start, there are some cue words, right? So eventually when you kind of remember this chapter, you're able to repeat it as you're imagining yourself and meditating. There are some cue words you can get. So Kunchitagram means you can, okay, Ghanam means heavy. So you can kind of say, okay, starting with the luscious hair there, right? And then you can, so Adamari, you can just kind of identify some, and I'll tell you as we're going through it, so you can know which part he's describing. So Neelabham Kunchitagram, comma, Ghanam Amalataram. If you want to break it, or you can say it together, Ghanam Amalataram, Samyatam Charu Bhangya, comma, Ratnot Tamsabhi Ramam, comma, Valayitam Udayach Chandrakaihi. Is that? And put a F, Chandrakaif Pinchajalaihi. So Pinchajala is a peacock feathers there. Neelabham Kunchitagram Ghanamamalataram Samyatam Charu Bhangya Ratnottam Sabhiramam Balaitamudaya Chandrakaif Pinchajalaihi.
Neelabham Kunchitagram Ghanamamalataram Samyatam Charu Bhangya Yattottam Sabhiramam Valaitamudaya Chandrakaif Pinchajalaihi. Neelabham Kunchitagram Ghanamamalataram Samyatam Charu Bhangya Yattottam Sabhiramam Valaitamudaya Chandrakaif Pinchajalaihi.
नीलाभं कुञ्चिताघ्रं घनममलतरं संयतं चारुभङ्ग्या रत्नोत्तं साभिरामं वलयितमुदयच्चन्द्रकैः पिञ्चजालैः. नीलाभं कुञ्चिताघ्रं घनममलतरं संयतं चारुभङ्ग्या रत्नोत्तं साभिरामं वलयितमुदयच्चन्द्रकैः पिञ्चजालैः.
Mandara Srang Nivitam. So the ing sound, right? Sra and then ing sound. Srang Nivitam, comma. Tava Prithu Khabari Bharam alokayeham, comma, snigdha shvetordva, snigdha shvetordva, pundramapi cha sulalitam, phala balendu vitim. So that whole line is continuous, no pause there. Mandharasrang nivitam tava pratukhabari bharamalokayeham snigdha shvetordva pundram apicha sulalitam phala balendu vitim.
Mandara Shangnivetam Tava Pradhukabari Bharamalokayeham Snigdha Svedhordva Pundram Apicha Sulalitam Bhala Balendu Vidhim
Vitim, long.
Bhala Balendu Vidhim Mandara Shangnivetam Tava Pradhukabari Bharamalokayeham Snigdha Svetordva Pundram Apicha Sulalitam Bhala Balendu Vidhim
Mandarasnagnivitam Tava Pratukabari Bharamalokyayeham Snigdashvetordhva Pundram Apicha Sulalitam Bhala Balendu Vitim.
Rupan, the third line, first word, right? Srang, sra, and then ing sound. Srang nividam.
Srang nivitam. Mandaras srang nivitam Tava pratukabari bharamalokyayeham snigdashvetordhva pundram apicha sulalitam phala balendu vitim. Vitim.
Stanza 3. Hridyam purnanukamparnava mrudulahari chanchala bhruvilasaihi anila snigdha pakshmavali parilasitam netra yugmam vibhote sandrachayam vishalaruna kamaladala karamamugdhataram karunya lokalila shishirita bhuvanam kshipyatam mayyanathe. So again, you can get the cue word. Netra means eyes. So now you know he's described the forehead in the previous stanza. Now he's kind of coming one level down. So he says, with, oh Lord, Kshipyatam, please look at me, who is my anathe. I am like a forsaken one, because I've been saying this for 99 days, right? And I have not seen any improvement, right? So you say, I am anathe. So please, this is a forsaken one. So with your two eyes, please look at me. And this eyes of yours, right, he says, you have very beautiful, attractive eyes. And then he first goes on to describe the eyebrows. He says the eyebrows are like waves in an ocean, right? And this is in the ocean of compassion. He says your eyebrows are like the waves in there. So Anamari, you have very nice eyebrows. And then this says the eyes, he then says, are the eyelashes. He says, I see bluish eyelashes. That's what he says. He says the eyelashes are lustrous, right? They're long and thick. And I see bluish eyelashes. And then the eyes themselves are kamaladala, are like lotus petals. If you look at the lotus petals, if you kind of open it, it's like the exact, you can kind of draw it, right? Like how we used to draw. And the eyes are like lotus petals, perfectly shaped eyes you actually have in them. And then those are red in color, right? Compared to the blue hue of your body, the eyes are a little bit slightly reddish as well. And as these eyes of yours look around, that's what it says, Karunya Lokalila. So when these eyes of yours look around, they are then, they are like blessing the rest of the world that, they look at, and they're removing the Alakshmi, right? So he says, as you go around and you look at, your eyes look around, you're portraying the merciful glances of yours all over the world. He's now describing the eyes of his. So similarly, like he says, action part, he says that, it's actually Shishirita Bhuvanam. He's saying that when you look at it, the heat or the intensity of the world is coming down. So if you remember the 38th chapter also, Bhattripad, when he's describing the Krishna Avataram, he says, just before you are about to be born, it says it starts raining, because it's an indicator that you are now going to be born to remove the heat, which means the sins of the world you're going to remove. Similarly, it says, as you look at it, it's going to remove the sins of everybody who you're looking at. So, Hridyam Purnanu Kamparnava. So you kind of have to say that together. Purnanu Kamparnava Mridu Lahari Chanchala Bhru Vilasaihi. Put a visarga at the end and comma. So that entire, again, that line is together. Bhru Vilasaihi. Next line, Ranila becomes Anila. Anila Snigdha Pakshmavali Pari Lasitam, comma, Netra Yugmam Vibho Te. Hridyam Purnanukamparnavamrutulahari Chanchala Bhruvilasaihi Anila Snigdha Pakshmavali Pari Lasitam Netra Yugmam Vibho Te.
Hridyam Purnanukambarnavamrudulahari Chanjalabhruvilasaihi Anila Snigdha Pakshma Valiparilasitam Netrayukmam Vibhote. Hridyam Purnanukambarnavamrudulahari Chanjalabhruvilasaihi Anila Snigdha Pakshma Valiparilasitam Netrayukmam Vibhote.
Hridyam Purnanukamparnavamrudulahari Chanchalabhruvilasaihi Anilasnigdha Pakshmavali Parilasitam Netrayugmam Vibhote.
Parilasitam, after that the pause is there. Okay.
Parilasitam. Hridyam Purnanukamparnavamrudulahari Chanchalabhruvilasaihi Anilasnigdha Pakshmavali Parilasitam Netrayugmam Vibhote.
Sandrachayam Vishalaruna Kamala Dalakaram, that kind of comes together, you can't break it. Dalakaram Amugdha, if you want to break it. Dalakaram Amugdha Taram, and then a comma. Again, that line is continuous, no pause. Karunya Loka Leela Shishirita Bhuvanam, comma, Kshipyatam Mayyanathe. Sandrachayam Vishalaruna Kamaladala Karama Mugdataram Karunya Lokalila Shishirita Bhuvanam Kshipyatam Mayyanathe.
Sandrachayam Vishalarunakamaladalam Amugdhataram Karunya Lokalila Shishirita Bhuvanam Kshipyanam Mayyanathe. Sandrachayam Vishalarunakamaladalam Amugdhataram Karunya Lokalila Shishirita Bhuvanam Kshipyanam Mayyanathe.
Mayyana, the last letter, which is the, tha. Mayyanathe.
Kshipyatam Mayyanathe.
Sandraschayam Vishalarunakamaladala Karama Mugdhataram Karunyalokalila Shishirita Bhuvanam Kshipyatam Mayyanathe. Sandrachayam Vishalarunakamaladala Karama Mugdhataram Karunyalokalila Shishirita Bhuvanam Kshipyatam Mayyanathe.
Stanza 4. Uttunghollasinasam Harimani Mukura Prolasad Gandapali Vyalolat Karnapashanchitamakarmani Kundala Dvandvadhipram Unmila Danta Panktis Puradharunatara Chaya Bimbhadarantaf Prite Prasyandi Mandasmita Madurataram Vaktramudbhasatame. This chapter will appear tough, but once you say it a few times, you really enjoy this chapter. So again, now Q word, right? So nasam, so means nose. So now you know he's coming down to describe he described the eyes in the previous stanza, right? So he says your face, first he starts with the face and he says your face is very prominent, very clear. And then he says most important, he says uttungo lasi nasam. He says your nose is well structured. Right, so for me and all, like for my grandmother and my mother, I have long nose. He says your nose is perfectly structured. It's a right size nose, he says. And then more important, he says your cheek area, right? He says Hari Mani Mukura. Hari Mani is like emerald. So he says your cheeks are like an emerald mirror. And the reason he says it's a mirror is it's so shiny and so soft that Kundala Dvandva, the two kundalams that you are actually wearing, I am able to see a reflection of that in your cheeks. So he's kind of more like being a poet, right? So he says your cheeks are so soft, like, it's very nice and so soft, shining like a mirror, that I can actually see the reflection of the earrings that you are actually wearing. And the earrings which you are wearing are the fish shaped earrings, right? So Anchita Makaramani, so it's like a fish shaped earrings which you're wearing, and I'm seeing the reflection of that in the cheeks there. And then he goes down and then he says the lips of yours are ruby red, a red color like the bimba fruit. So bimba fruit is a red color fruit. He says the lips are red like a bimba fruit, and more importantly that it's open just enough. So it's not widely open, it's not completely shut. The lips are just open for me to be able to see very nicely arranged teeth which are actually in there, right? And with that, you're also having mandasmita. You are having a very sweet smile that is actually coming out of your face. So he's kind of saying, I'm seeing this face, very shiny cheeks, earrings, dvandva deepram, earrings reflecting on it, red ruby-like lips, and your teeth nicely arranged with a very nice smile. And that face of yours, udbhasatame, may that face of yours please bless me as well. So uttungol lasi nasam, comma. So you put a comma after that, and then the rest of the two lines go together. Okay, so you can put a plus at the end of that first line and say the whole thing together. Hari mani mukura prolasat ganda pali, longi pali, and then plus vyalolat karna pashanchita makara mani kundala dvandva deepram. So it's pretty simple. Each of the words break nicely there. Uttungholla sinhasam harimani mukura prolasad gandapali vyalolat karnapashanchita makaramani kundala dvandvadipram.
Uttungollasinasam harimani mukura prolasad gandapali Vyalolat karnapashanjita makaramani kundaladvandvadipram Uttungullasinasam harimani mukura prolasat kandapali Vyalolat karnapashanjita makaramani kundaladvandvadipram
Uttungollasinasam harimani mukura prolasaddandapali vyalolat karnapashanjita makaramani kundalat dvandvadipram. Uttungollasinasam harimani mukura prolasaddandapali vyalolat karnapashanjita makaramani kundalat dvandvadipram.
Unmeelat Danta. So there's double da coming. The Unmeela Danta Pankti Spura Dharunatara. If you want to break it, it becomes Spurat Arunatara, or you can say it together. Spura Dharunatara Tara Chaya Bimbata Rantaha. Is it? Bimbada Rantaha. Put a F and then put a plus. Bimbada Rantaf Preeti Prasyandi Manda Smita Madhura Taram, then a comma. So the whole third line continues. Then after Madhura Taram, comma, Vaktram Udbhasatam me. Because he's describing everything, he's putting in compound words and things like that, right? So that's why we are not able to break it there. Unmeelat danta panktis puradarunatara chaya bimbhadarantaf preete prasyandi mandasmita madhurataram Vaktramudbhasatam me.
Unmeelat dandabangtis puradarunadara chaya bimbadharandaf priti prasyandi mandasmitha madhurataram Vaktramudbhasatam me. Unmeela dandabangtis puradarunadara chaya bimbadharandaf priti prasyandi mandasmitha madhurataram Vaktramudbhasatam me.
OPG, the third line, chaya, not, I think you're saying chaya, just there's no ya there, just chaya. Okay, the third line.
Unmeela dandat panktis puradharunadara chaya bimbadharandaf.
Yeah. Rupa mute.
Sorry. उन्मीलद्दन्तपङ्क्तिस्फुरदरुणतरच्छायबिम्बादरान्तः प्रीतिप्रस्यादिमन्तस्मितमधुरतरं वक्त्रमुद्भासतां मे.
Fourth line, prasyandi.
प्रस्यन्ति. उन्मीलद्यन्तपङ्क्तिस्फुरदरुणतरच्छायबिम्बादरान्तः प्रीतिप्रस्यन्ति मन्दस्मितमधुरतरं वक्त्रमुद्भासतां मे.
We'll switch. Vaidehi, can you be a student? And Sudha, can you be a student?
Sure.
Stanza 5. Bahudvandvena ratnojjwalavalaya bhrita shonapane pravale nopatam venunalim prasita nakhamayukanguli sanghashara कृत्वा वक्त्रारविन्धे सुमधुर विकसद् रागमुद्भाव्यमानैः शब्द ब्रह्मामृतैस्त्वं शिशिरित भुवनैः सिञ्च मे कर्णवीतीम्. So first word itself, bahu. So no, bahubali means bahu means hands, right? So bahu dvandvena. So he's now going to describe the hands. So so couple of things he goes and tells here. One, he says that ragam udbhavyamanahi. So I'm hearing this music which is actually coming out of your flute, which cools down the entire world, the music. And this says this music is nothing but it's as if the Brahman is manifesting in the form of sound. If the Brahman himself comes in the form of a sound, then the noise or the music that actually comes from there, that is the music I am actually hearing, the music which is actually coming out of your fruit, which is like a nectar to my ears and made actually cool the entire world as well. And this flute is now held by your lotus-like hands, right? And then, so that first he describes his hands, a bahu, with your two hands, you are now holding the flute out of which the music is coming. And then he goes on to describe that the light that is actually coming from your nails, which are actually holding the flute, the rays which are emanating from that is making the flute even colorful. So one is it's the sound of it is nectar to my ears. At the same time, it is so colorful because of the light or rays which are actually emanating out of your hands. And then your hands also, it says here, is ratno jvalaya valaya. Valaya means bangles or bracelets, however you want to call it. So I'm seeing, studded bracelets or bangles on either of your hands. In your palms, which are again like the coral, which is a red color palms, which are holding the flute. And let that, soak my ears. Sinchame karnaviti, may that soak my ears. So bahu dvandvena, comma, ratno jvala balaya bhrita, comma, shona pani pravale, and then put plus, no patam Venu Nalim, and then comma. So one comma after Dvandvena, one after Bhrita, and then after Venu Nalim, comma. Prasrita Nakha Mayukhanguli Sanga Sharam. Bahudvandvena Ratno Jwalavalaya Bhrita Shonapane Pravale No Patam Venu Nalim. Prasita Nakhamayukanguli Sanghasharam.
Bahudvandvena Ratnojvala Valaya Bhrita Shona Pani Pravale No Patam Venunalim Prasruta Nakhamayukanguli Sanghasharam. Bahudvandvena Ratnojvala Valaya Bhrita Shona Pani Pravale No Patam Venunalim Prasruta Nakhamayukanguli Sanghasharam.
In the second line, Prasruta Nakhamayu.
Prasruta Nakhamayu.
Yep.
Bahudvandena Ratnojvala Valaya Bhrita Shona Pani Pravale No Patam Venunalim Prasruta Nakhamayukanguli Sanghasharam.
And so the first line, Bahudvandvena, kapram, there's a pause.
Bahudvandvena Ratnojvala Valaya Bhrita Shona Pani Pravale No Patam Venunalim Prasruta Nakhamayukanguli Sanghasharam.
Kritva Vaktrara Vindhe, comma, Sumadhura Vikasad Ragam. If you want to bake it, or you can say it Vikasad Dragam, you can say it together, but Vikasad Dragam Udbhavya Manehi, comma, Shabda Brahmamritais Tvam Shishirita Bhuvanaihi, comma, Sincha me Karna Vitim Kritva Vaktraravindhe Sumadhura Vikasad Dragamudbhavyamanehi Shabda Brahmamritaistvam Shishirita Bhuvanaihi Sinchame Karnavitim
Kritva Vaktraravinde Sumadhurak Vikasadragam Mudbhavyamanaihi Shabda Brahmamritaistvam Shishirita Bhuvanaihi Sinchame Karnavitim Kritva Vaktraravinde Sumadhura Vikasadragamudbhavyamanaihi Shabda Brahmamritaistvam Shishirita Bhuvanaihi Sinchame Karnavitim
Kritva Vaktraravinde Sumadhura Vikasadravamudbhavyamanaihi Shabda Brahmamritaistvam Shishirata Bhuvanaihi Sinchame Karnavitim.
The fourth line, Shishirita.
Shishirita, okay. Kritva Vaktraravinde Sumadhura Vikasadravamudbhavyamanaihi Shabda Brahmamritaistvam Shishirita Bhuvanaihi Sinchame Karnavitim.
Stanza 6. Utsarpat Kaustubhashri Tatibhirarunitam Komalam Kantadesham Bhaksha Shri Vatsaramhyam Tarala Tarasamuddi Prahara Pratanam Nana Varna Prasuna Valikisalainhim Vanyamalam Vilolallolambham Lambamana Murasita Vatata Bhavaye Ratnamalam. So Kanta means neck area, throat area, right? So here Kanta Desham, so he says Bhavaye, I'm meditating on this Komalam Kantam of yours, which is a very delicate neck of yours, right? Now this neck, so what is on the neck of the Lord is the Kaustuba jewel. So he says this Kaustuba jewel, which is on your neck, it is shining so much that it is radiating or emitting a red light or red color, right? It is actually emitting out. So when I'm looking at your neck, I'm actually seeing this red color coming out of the Kaustuba jewel. And now he comes down. So from your neck, he comes to the chest. So what is in the Lord's chest is the Sri Vatsam. Sri is Mahalakshmi, right? So Sri Vatsam is the Sri Vatsa mark, means one who is the beloved of Mahalakshmi. That's a Sri Vatsa. So Sri Vatsa mark is a mark to represent that Mahalakshmi is sitting on the Lord's chest. So he says, I'm seeing the Sri Vatsa mark on your chest to indicate Mahalakshmi sitting there. And this, we also saw in the 38th stanza, right? It comes Vakshastali Sukanilina Vilasi Lakshmi, right? So that's it, same that Mahalakshmi is sitting on your chest. And then in addition to Mahalakshmi also, of course, he's not seeing Mahalakshmi, but he's representing the Sri Vatsa mark. And then he says, in addition to that, you are also wearing, he's seeing many jewels and pearls and necklaces. And he says, lot of other flowers, which are actually strung together. And it's so fresh that I can see bees hovering on it, right? So being a poet, so he's saying, I can feel that the bees are hovering. Means when the flowers look so fresh and nice that you are actually wearing around your shoulders and your neck here. So Utsarpat Kaustubha Shri Tatibhira Runitam, Tatibhir Arunitam, but you can say it together, Tatibhira Runitam, comma, Komalam Kantha Desham, comma, Vakshaha, is there put a ish sound, Vakshash Shrivatsa Ramyam, comma, actually, let me see if I have a comma there. No, it's not there. So Vaksha Shrivatsa Ramyam, Tarala Thara Samudhipra Hara Prathanam. So that line goes together, continuous, no pause in the second line. Utsarpat Kaustubhashri Tatibhira Runitam Komalam Kantadesham Bhaksha Shri Vatsaramhyam Taralatara Samudhi Prahara Prathanam.
அங்க கமா இருக்கா? ஸ்ரீவத்சரம்யம்
இல்ல கமா இல்ல, இட்ஸ் ஜஸ்ட் கண்டினியூஸ். Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
उत्सर्पत् कौस्तुभश्री ततिभिररुणितं कोमलं कण्ठदेशं वक्षश्रीवत्सरम्यं तरलतरसमुद्धिप्रहारप्रतानम् उत्सर्पत् कौस्तुभश्री ततिभिररुणितं कोमलं कण्ठदेशं वक्षश्रीवत्सरम्यं तरलतरसमुद्धिप्रहारप्रतानम्
उत्सर्प कौस्तुभश्री तदिभिररुणितं कोमलं कण्ठदेशं वक्षश्रीवत्सरम्यं तरलतरसमोदि प्रहारप्रदानम् उत्सर्प कौस्तुभश्री तदिभिररुणितं कोमलं कण्ठदेशं वक्षश्रीवत्सरम्यं तरलतरसमुद्रि प्रहारप्रदानम्
नाना वर्ण प्रसूनावली किसलयिनीं, comma, vanya malam, and then the vilola, put a plus there, and then the ill that is there, you can join it. So vilolal lolambham, comma, so plus vilolam lolambham, comma, lambhamanam urasi tava tatha bhavaye ratnamalam. नाना वर्ण प्रसूनावलिकिसलयिनीं वन्यमालां विलोलल्लोलम्भां लम्भमानां मुरसि तव तथा भावये रत्नमालाम्.
नानावर्णप्रसूनावलिकिसलयिनीं वन्यमालां विलोलल्लोलम्बां लम्बमानामुरसि तव तथा भावये रत्नमालाम्. नानावर्णप्रसूनावलिकिसलयिनीं वन्यमालां विलोलल्लोलम्बां लम्बमानामुरसि तव तथा भावये रत्नमालाम्.
नानावर्णप्रसूनावलिकिसलयिनीं वन्यमालां विलोलां लोलम्बां लम्बमानां मुरसि तव तथा भावये रत्नमालाम्. नानावर्णप्रसूनावलिकिसलयिनीं वन्यमालां विलोलां लोलम्बां लम्बमानां मुरसि तव तथा भावये रत्नमालाम्.
Okay, sorry for the disturbance, everyone. I think I may have to switch the computer. So I'm going to go back to my old computer. Okay, so you won't be able to see me. So I'm sorry, apologies for that. So I'm going to leave this. This shouldn't cut the meeting, but if it does, please log back again. Okay, you all can hear me, right? Okay. I can see you, but I don't know, my camera is still not. Okay. Stanza 7. Anghe panchangaraghaihi atishaya vikasat saurabha kristalokam leena nekatriloki vitatimapi krisham bibhratam madhyavallim shakrashmanyastapto jwalakanakanibham pitachelam dadhanam ध्यायामो दीप्तरश्मिस्फुटमनिरशना किंकिनी manditam त्वाम. So the previous one, we saw how he was describing the chest and all the Kaustubha Srivatsa mark and everything. So now he's meditating on the body itself of the Lord, which he says, the body is made up of, this the material which is made up of 5 ingredients, like any of the idols, right? Even in Guruvayur, it's made up of 5 ingredients, and that is so fragrant that it actually attracts the whole world because of the fragrance which is actually coming out of that. And then he comes down and then he talks about the waist. So any strong person, the waist is always lean, right? So he says your midriff waist, your bhibratam, is slender like a creeper. It is it's very sleek. Although you are carrying the bharam, you're carrying the weight of the entire 3 worlds. Trilokeen, you're carrying the weight of the entire 3 worlds. Your waist is very slim. His waist is very slim and slender. Amari, he's praising, and then he comes down, and then he says, you are the Pita Chelam Dharanam. So as he's coming down, he's saying you're wearing an yellow garment, which is actually a silk-like cloth, which is actually shining and which is actually in yellow in color. And even around that, in your waist, he is actually saying you're wearing another, a garment or something, or something which is actually has lot of money and everything. Mini bells, kinkini means small bells, which is actually adorned by it, and it is all shining and emitting light. So he's kind of describing the overall body of the Lord and says how strong it is, and the waist is slim, although he's carrying the weight of the three worlds. So Ange Panchanga Ragaihi. So the ra that you have there, remove that ra and put a visarga and a comma. Panchanga Ragaihi, comma. Next line becomes a a. Next word becomes a starts with a a. Atishaya Vikasat Saurabhakrishta Lokam, comma. Leena Neka Triloki Vitatim api, comma. Krisham Bhratam Madhyavallim. Ange Panchangaragaihi Atishaya Vikasat Saurabha Krishnalokam Leenanekatriloki Vitatimapi Krisham Bhratam Madhyavallim.
Ange Panchangaragaihi Atishaya Vikasat Saurabha Krishnalokam Leenanekatriloki Vitatimapi Krisham Bhratam Madhyavallim. Ange Panchangaragaihi Atishaya Vikasat Saurabha Krishnalokam Leenanekatriloki Vitatimapi Krisham Bhratam Madhyavallim.
Ange Panchangaragaihi Atishaya Vikasat Saurabha Krishnalokam Leenanekatriloki Vitatimapi Krisham Bhratam Madhyavallim. Ange Panchangaragaihi Atishaya Vikasat Saurabha Krishnalokam Leenanekatriloki Vitatimapi Krisham Bhratam Madhyavallim.
Shakrash Manyasta Taptoj. First is ip and then ij is coming. Taptoj Jwala Kanaka Nibham, comma. Pita Chelam Dhadanam, comma. Dhyayamo Deepta Rashmi Sputa Mani Rashana Kinkini Manditam Twam. So that fourth line is continuous. Shakrashmanyasta tapto jwalakanakhanibham pitachelam dadhanam dhyayamo deepta rashmi sphutamani rashana kinkini manditam tvam.
Shakrashmanyasta Taptojvala Kanakanibham Pitachelam Dadhanam Vyayamo Deepta Rashmi Sputamani Rashana Kinkini Manditam Tvam. Shakrashmanyasta Taptojvala Kanakanibham Pitachelam Dadhanam Vyayamo Deepta Rashmi Sputamani Rashana Kinkini Manditam Tvam.
Shakrashmanyasta taptojvala kanakanibham pitachelam dadanam dhyayamo deepta rashmi sputamani rashana kinkini manditam tvam. Shakrashmanyasta taptojvala kanakanibham pitachelam dadanam dhyayamo deepta rashmi sputamani rashana kinkini manditam tvam.
I just connected on my phone just so that you guys all can see me. But the son took his laptop away. Stanza 8. Uru charu tavoru ghanamasruna ruchau chitta chorau ramayaha vishwakshobham vishankya dhruvamanishamubau pita chela vritangau anam ranham purastat Nyasana dhrita samastartha pali samudgachayam janudvayam cha Krama pratula manogne cha janghe nishepe. So we saw about the body, and then he was wearing the yellow pitambaram he was wearing. So now it comes down and says uru. Uru is referring to your thighs. So he says your thighs, right? You have two handsome thighs, and this handsome thighs of yours is chitta chorau ramayaha. Even Rama, which is Mahalakshmi herself, it is stealing away her hearts, right? Because you have such strong thighs. So if you can steal Mahalakshmi's heart, then for the rest of the people, to make sure that they don't get distracted with your thighs, you always keep. That's what he says. So you don't get distorted, they don't get distracted, fearing that the whole world will get excited. You always cover them with pita chela. You always cover them with the yellow garments. You always keep it covered. So that is referring to the thighs. Then he comes down, and then next he comes to the knees portion. So he says, all your devotees who are anamranam purastadu, who does namaskaram to you in front of you. So when they do namaskarams in front of you, whatever they need, even if they don't know, because we don't know what we need later, we only can tell what we need now. So whatever the devotees who do namaskaram to you, whatever they need, all of that, you have it stored in your knees, which are like storage, like caskets, which is storing all the needs of your devotees, so that whenever they do namaskarams in front of you, you are able to deliver it to your devotees, even what they don't ask for. He's now describing the thighs and the knees of the Lord. So uru charu tavoru ghana masruna ruchau, comma, chitta chorau ramayaha. So it's got 3 commas there. Tavoru after ruchau, and then ramayaha. Vishwa kshobham vishankya, comma, dhruvam anishamubhau pita chela vritangau. Uru charu tavoru ghana masruna ruchau chitta chorau ramayaha. Vishwa kshobham vishankya ध्रुवमनिशमुभौ पीतचेलावृताङ्गौ.
ऊरु चारु तवोरु घनमसृणरुचौ चित्तचोरौ रमायाः विश्वक्षोभं विशङ्क्य ध्रुवमनिशमुभौ पीतचेलावृताङ्गौ. ऊरु चारु तवोरु घनमसृणरुचौ चित्तचोरौ रमायाः विश्वक्षोभं विशङ्क्य ध्रुवमनिशमुभौ पीतचेलावृताङ्गौ.
Yeah, correct. And the word, if you want to break it, it becomes 3 words in there. Dhruvam anisham ubhau. Okay, but you can say it dhruvam anisham ubhau.
Sometimes இது ஸ்டக் ஆச்சுன்னா பிரெயின்ல டக்குன்னு மாத்த முடிய மாட்டேங்குது.
ऊरु चारु तवोरु घनमसृण रुचौ चित्तचोरौ रमायाः विश्वक्षेमं विशङ्क्य विश्वक्षोभं विशङ्क्य ध्रुवमनिशमुभौ पीतचेलावृताङ्गौ.
So then the second line, the comma is pauses after vishankya.
Vishankya, okay. Uru charu tavoru घनमसृण रुचौ चित्तचोरौ रमायाः विश्वक्षोमं क्षोभं
second bha vishwakshobham.
இருங்க, நான் என்ன இடத்துல மம்மன் இருக்கு. विश्वक्षोभं विशङ्क्य ध्रुवमनिशमुभौ पीतचेलावृताङ्गौ.
Namranam purastat. So you have 2 ins there. For those who are following Sanskrit, strike one of the ins and put a it. Purastat, first ta, it, comma, nyasana dhrita samastartha pali samudgha, and then put a plus, and then the ich that is there in the next line, that kind of comes together. Samudghachayam janu dvayam cha. Janu is referring to the knees. Janu dvayam cha, comma, krama pritula manogne cha janghe nisheve. Anam ranham purastat Nyasana dhrita samastartha pali samudgachayam janudvayam cha krama pratula manogne cha janghe nisheve.
आनम्राणां पुरस्तात् न्यसनधृतसमस्तार्थ पाली समुद्गच्छायं जानद्वयं च क्रमपृतुलमनोज्ञे च जङ्गे निषेवे आनम्राणां पुरस्तात् न्यसनधृतसमस्तार्थ पाली समुद्गच्छायं जानद्वयं च क्रमपृतुलमनोज्ञे च जङ्गे निषेवे
आनम्राणां पुरस्तात् समस्तार्य पाली
Samastartha.
आनम्राणां पुरस्तात् समस्तार्थ पाली समुद्गच्छायं जानुद्वयं च क्रमप्रतुलमनोज्ञे च जङ्गे निषेवे.
And Sudhan, the first line after purastat it, there is a comma, okay? Third line.
Okay. Anamranam purastat nyasanadrita samastartha pali samudgachayam janudvayacha kramapratula manogye cha jange nisheve.
And the third and the fourth, you kind of have to say it together, else you won't be able to do it. So under I think that's where you were pausing briefly, right? Samudgachayam, and the ichu and you join it with the ga.
Okay. Samudgachayam janudvayacha kramapratula manogye cha jange nisheve.
Yeah. Stanza 9. Manjiram manjunadhairiva padabhajanam shreya ityalapantam padagram bhrantimajjat pranata janamano mandarodhara kurmam uttunga tamrarajan nakara himakara jyotsnaya chashritanam santapadvanta hantrim tatimanukalaye mangala mangulhinam. So now she's described the Janu, he described the knees in the previous one, and then he talked about the legs. So now he's coming further down. So he says the Manjiram, referring to the Salangai or anklets that he's actually where Lord is wearing. He says the sound that is actually coming from that Manjiram, that what the message it is actually telling me is that worship of your feet is the best one. Tava Padagram is the worship of your feet is the best. That is the message it is constantly giving me. And why is that? He says, when you did the Kurma Avataram, you lifted the entire Mandara mountain on your back. So similarly, how you did that for all the people for whom you are the last resort, and that's the most important, and I'll explain that, for who you are the only last resort, when they surrender to you, the top of your feet is what lifts them up, right? And what he says, the examples, if you kind of think of it, right, whether it be, we saw about Gajendra Moksham, right? And you all know about, and when you hear the Kuchelo Pakyanam story, right, which is in the 87th chapter, or even Draupadi Vastrapaharanam, right? You all know that whenever if you approach the Lord saying, you know what, I need something, or I'm in dire situation, let me first try, right? Let me ask and see if that works, else I'll resort to other chance. So when there's a second option, it never works. So only in the situation where you completely give up and say, I have no other option or no other choice, but I'm completely surrendering to you. And when you completely surrender and then you completely fall on his feet, he says, then the top of your feet then lifts everybody up, all your devotees who fall, just like how you took the Kurma Avataram and lifted the entire earth. So what is the big problem for you to lift up the spirit of the people who fall to your feet? So that's what the first 4 feet, Padagram, is represented to the top of your feet, right? And then he talks about, that the nails of yours are also, shining, and it is emitting light. It eliminates all the darkness of the devotees. But he's again focusing on the feet, is the feet of the Lord as the most important one. So Manjiram, Manju Nadairiva, comma, Pada Bhajanam. Pada Bhajanam means the worship of your feet. Pada Bhajanam Shreya Ityalapantam, comma, Padagram Bhranti Majjat Pranata Jana Mano Mandarodhara Kurmam. So the second line is continuous, no pause. Manjiram Manjunadhairiva Padabhajanam Shreya Ityalapantam Padagram Bhranti Majjat Pranata Janamano Mandarodhara Kurmam.
Manjiram Manjunadeiriva Padabhajanam Shreya Ityalapantam Padagram Bhranti Majjat Pranata Janamano Mandaro Dhara Kurmam. Manjiram Manjunadeiriva Padabhajanam Shreya Ityalapantam Padagram Bhranti Majjat Pranata Janamano Mandaro Dhara Kurmam.
Manjiram Manjunadeiriva Padabhajanam Shreyayityalapantam Padagram Bhranti Majjat Pranata Janamano Mandarodhara Kurmam. Manjiram Manjunadeiriva Padabhajanam Shreyayityalapantam Padagram Bhranti Majjat Pranata Janamano Mandarodhara Kurmam.
Uttunga Tamra Rajan Nakara Himakara Jyotsnaya Chashritanam. So that line is continuous. Chashritanam, comma there. Santapa Dhwanta Hantrim, comma. Tatim Anukalaye, Mangalam Angulinam. Uttunga Tamra Rajan Nakara Himakara Jyotsnaya Chashritanam. Santapa Dhwanta Hantrim Tatimanukalaye Mangala Mangulinam.
Uttunga Tamra Rajan Nakhara Himakara Jyotsnaya Chashritanam Santapadvanta Hantrim Tatimanukalaye Mangala Mangulinam. Uttunga Tamra Rajan Nakara Himakara Jyotsnaya Chashritanam Santapadvanta Hantrim Tatimanukalaye Mangala Mangulinam.
Uttunga Tamra Rajanakara Himakara Jyotsnaya Chashritanam Santapadvanta Hantrim Tatimanukalaye Mangalam Angulinam. Uttunga Tamra Rajanakara Himakara Jyotsnaya Chashritanam Santapadvanta Hantrim Tatimanukalaye Mangalam Angulinam.
Last two stanzas. Yogindranham Twadangeshwadika Sumadhuram Mukti Bhajam Nivaso Bhaktanam Kamavarshad Yutarukisalayam Natha Te Padamulam Nityam Chittastidham Me Pavanapurapathe Krishna Karunya Sindho Kritva Nisheshatapan Pradishadu Paramananda Sandhoha Lakshmi. So just like how Bhattacharya started the first stanza, first line with Sandra Nandava, is kind of technically ending this with Paramananda Sandhoha Lakshmi, right? So that, like we said in 37th chapter also, he starts Sandra Nanda Thano Hare, right? So he's saying you are the intense, condensed supreme bliss. So here he says, okay, in the first 9 stanzas, he started from how he saw the vision of the Lord, starting as a blue color, Agre Pashyami Tejo, in front of me, I saw this blue radiant light. And then he goes from the hair and then went on to describe each part of the body. And then in the 9th stanza, he says Padagram, he says the top of your feet, right? He described that as well. That's where all your devotees come and pray. So, and then he says of all the parts of your body, even if you cannot, which part of the body should everybody focus on? So here he says that among all the parts of your body, so he says, don't focus on the face, don't focus on the hands or the bahu or the body or the legs or feet or anything. He says, te pada moolam, the sole of your feet, the bottom of your feet, the sole of your feet. That is the most important of all amongst all the parts of your body, amongst everything that I've described. He says that is Adhika Sumadhuram, that is the most beloved and most coveted for everybody, is the sole of your feet. Because even for Yogindranam, even for the great yogis, they focus on the bottom of your feet, because that is the most important one. He says, because Mukti bhajam nivasaha. The people who are liberated, the liberated ones are residing, nivasam, they reside at the bottom of your feet. And bhaktanam kama varsha. So for people who are completely devoted to you, varsha, it pours, it rains all the desires that your devotees are asking for. The sole of your feet delivers on everything, just like the the parijata tree, it delivers on everything. And then he says, "O Pavana Purapate, O Lord of Guruvayur, O Krishna, right? Nityam chitta sthitam me." So let that sole of your feet always, every day, nityam, let it always rest in my mind, chitam. It may always be focused on the sole of your feet. O Karunya Sindho, O Lord of compassion, please eliminate, destroy all my sufferings, nishesha tapan, eradicate all my sufferings, and then give on me sandoha Lakshmi. Lakshmi means prosperity, right? Or abundance of something is called Lakshmi, right? So please confer on me an abundance of Paramananda, of supreme bliss. So with that, Bhattripad is kind of ending his thing here. There's one more stanza where he wraps up, but this is the one. He says, of all the parts, the sole of your feet is the most important. And he says, may I always have the blessings where I'm constantly thinking about the sole of your feet. And with that, let it eradicate all the diseases and ailments I actually have, and confer on me an abundance flow of a supreme bliss. So Yogindranam Twadange Shvadika Sumadhuram, comma, Mukti Bhajam Nivaso, comma, Bhaktanam Kama Varsha Dhyutaru Kisalayam, comma, Natha, and then put a comma again, Te Padamulam. His second line, comma after Kisalayam and Natha. Yogindranam Twadangeshwadika Sumadhuram Mukti Bhajam Nivaso Bhaktanam Kama Varsha Dhyutaru Kisalayam Natha Te Padamulam.
Yogindranam Twadangeshwadika Sumadhuram Mukti Bhajam Nivaso Bhaktanam Kama Varsha Dhyutiru Kisalayam Natha Te Padamulam.
Now I think second line, Kama Varsha Dhya, right? Dhyutaru.
Dhyutaru. Okay. Yogindranam Twadangeshwadika Sumadhuram Mukti Bhajam Nivaso Bhaktanam Kama Varsha Dhyutaru Kisalayam Natha Te Padamulam.
Yogindranam Twadangeshwadika Sumadhuram Mukti Bhajam Nivaso Bhaktanam Kama Varsha Dhyutaru Kisalayam Natha Te Padamulam. Yogindranam Twadangeshwadika Sumadhuram Mukti Bhajam Nivaso Bhaktanam Kama Varsha Dhyutaru Kisalayam Natha Te Padamulam.
Nityam Chitta Sthitam Me, comma, Pavana Purapate, comma, Krishna Karunya Sindho, comma, Hritva Nishesha Tapan, comma, Pradishatu Paramananda Sandoha Lakshmi. Nityam Chittastitham Me Pavana Purapathe Krishna Karunya Sindho Hritva Nisheshatapan Pradishatu Paramananda Sandhoha Lakshmi.
Nityam Chittastitam Me Pavana Purapate Krishna Karunya Sindho Hritva Nisheshatapan Pradishatu Paramananda Sandhoha Lakshmi. Nityam Chittastitam Me Pavana Purapate Krishna Karunya Sindho Hritva Nisheshatapan Pradishatu Paramananda Sandhoha Lakshmi.
Nityam Chittastitam Me Pavana Purapate Krishna Karunya Sindho Hritva Nisheshatapan Pradishatu Paramananda Sandhoha Lakshmi. Nityam Chittastitam Me Pavana Purapate Krishna Karunya Sindho Hritva Nisheshatapan Pradishatu Paramananda Sandhoha Lakshmi.
That's 11. Ajñātvā te mahatvam yadika nigatitham Vishwanatha kshametāha stotram chaitat sahasrottaram adhikataram tvat prasadaya bhūyāt dvedha narayaniyam shruti-chusha janusha stutyata varnanena sphitam leelavataraihi idamiha kurutam ayurarogya saukyam. So he says, O Vishwanatha, O Lord of the universe, Shametaha, please forgive me. Because he says, I've written these 100 chapters, right, about you. But I don't know, Ajñātvate, but I may have missed your Mahatvam, right? Even though I know how great you are, I may not have fully comprehended your greatness. So please forgive me that I might not have still fully comprehended your greatness. I tried to do my best, right? That's what Bhattacharya is saying here. I did this. I know I tried to do my best. And he says, this stotram which I wrote here is Sahasrottaram Adhikataram, because it says more than 1,000 verses. Like we said, it's got 1,036 verses, right? Some of them had even this as 11 stanzas. So this verse which I wrote, which has got more than 1,000 verses, is Tvat Prasadaya Bhuyat. May this be the source of your grace. So all this is requesting the Lord, may this be the source of all the grace that is going to come for all the devotees. And it is Dveda Narayaneeyam. It says it's Narayaneeyam for two reasons. One, it says because it was written by Narayana Bhattatripat, so it's Narayaneeyam, written by Narayana Bhattatripat. And two is it is about Lord Narayana, so it's also can be called Narayaneeyam for that reason. So it's two reasons it's called Data Narayaneeyam. And this one, this 1,036 verses, is talking about, all the Janusha. It talks about all your incarnations. So we kind of saw a lot of the incarnations we covered in this batch, and there are other incarnations of the Lord as well, which is covered in Narayaneeyam. So it covers all your incarnations, and Leela and Avataraihi, and all the Leela, all the sportive actions and everything that you actually performed as part of the Krishna, like we said, from 37 to 88. So it talks about all the activities and everything it has actually performed. And all of these things, may this be the source for people to get Ayu, Arogya, Saukyam. So Ayuhu means long age, Arogyam means health, and Saukyam means happiness. So may it give on people whose tutyata, who are chanting, as well as those who are hearing it. May this be a source of grace for them, and may it confer on them Ayur, Arogya, Saukyam. So that Bhattacharya ends this. So there's another what do you call it, the variation of that Ayur, Arogya, Saukyam, and you all can Google this. So there's something called as a Katapayati Sankhya in Sanskrit. So it's like where Bhattacharya is also a great mathematician. So what they do is each letter in Sanskrit denotes a number, and when they actually write, so that's why they say when you say Sri Rama Rama Rameti, it is like saying 1008 or 108 or some logic is there for just that verse, right? So here, if you just go and put Ayur, Arogya, Saukyam, what it tells is it actually tells the number 1712210, and he says that is that day of Kali Yuga is when Bhattacharya ends up writing this chapter. So and then that when you translate it, right, it actually comes to, I have it written down, it's a 28th day of Vrichika Masam in Malayalam year 762. In English year, it is 27th November 1587. So that day, Kali Yugam, is that one long number. It says that is also the other word of other meaning of Ayur, Arogya, Saukyam. But you can also take it as very literally Ayur, Arogya, Saukyam. It confer on the people who chant and the people who listen to it. So Ajñātva te mahatvam, comma, yadiha nigaditham, comma, Vishwanatha kshametaha, comma again. So again, 3 commas there. Stotram chaitat sahasrottaram adhikataram. You can put the break at that ma. Sahasrottaram adhikataram tvat prasadaya bhuyat. So that line comes continuous. Ajñātva te mahatvam yadiha nigatitham Vishwanatha kshametaha stotram chaitat sahasrottaram adhikataram tvat prasadaya bhuyat.
Ajñātvā te mahatvam yadiha nigaditam Vishwanatha kshametaha stotram chaitat sahasrottaram adhikataram tvat prasadaya bhuyat. Ajñātvā te mahatvam yadiha nigaditam विश्वनाथक्षमेताः स्तोत्रं चैतत्सहस्रोत्तरमधिकतरं त्वत्प्रसादाय भूयात्।
अज्ञात्वा ते महत्त्वं यदि निगदितं विश्वनाथक्षमेताः स्तोत्रं स्तोत्रं चैतत्सहस्रोत्तरमधिकतरं त्वत्प्रसादाय भूयात्। अज्ञात्वा ते महत्त्वं यदि निगदितं विश्वनाथक्षमेताः स्तोत्रं चैतत्सहस्रोत्तरमधिकतरं त्वत्प्रसादाय भूयात्।
द्वेधा नारायणीयं श्रुतिषु च जनुषा स्तुत्यता वर्णनेन again, so 3 commas, sphitam leelavatharaihi. So that ra that is there, you remove it, or you remove the re and put a visarga and a comma. Leelavatharaihi, comma. Next word starts with the e. Idamiha kurutam ayur arogya saukyam. Dvedha narayaniyam shrutishu janusha stutyata varnanena sphitam leelavatharaihi idamiha kurutam ayurarogya saukyam.
वेधा नारायणीयं श्रुतिषु च जनुषा स्तुत्यता वर्णनेन स्फीतं लीलावतारैः इदमिह कुरुताम् आयुरारोग्यसौख्यम्। वेधा नारायणीयं श्रुतिषु च जनुषा स्तुत्यता वर्णनेन स्फीतं लीलावतारैः इदमिह कुरुताम् आयुरारोग्यसौख्यम्।
वेदा नारायणीयं श्रुतिषु च जनुषा स्तुत्यता वर्णनेन स्फीतं लीलावतारैः इदमिह कुरुतामायुरारोग्यसौख्यम्। वेदा नारायणीयं श्रुतिषु च जनुषा स्तुत्यता वर्णनेन स्फीतं लीलावतारैः इदमिह कुरुतामायुरारोग्यसौख्यम्।
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. So that we successfully completed it. So in the last 2 stanzas, we generally chant it 3 times when you're doing any parayanam, right? The 10th stanza and the 11th stanza, we'll do it 3 times. So that's the general thing for this. Om Sandhranandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam Kaladeshavadebhyam Nirmuktam Nityamuktam Nigamashatasahasrena Nirbhasyamanam Aspashtam Drishtamatre Punarurupurushartatmakam Brahmatattvam Tattavad Bhadi Sakshad Guru Pavanapure Hanta Bhagyam Jananam Kahena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrite swabhavat karomi yatyat sakalam parasmai narayanayeti samarpayami. Thank you everyone for staying through an intense 4 months. I think we had the classes, right? And for successfully completing this.
Spellbound.
It's
Your class is spellbound, like, you know,
thanks,
just
really.
really spellbound.
No, absolutely. I also absolutely enjoyed teaching. It's a big class, right? So it's nice to have a big crowd as well. So I'm very happy that you all stayed through. Even I know some of you found it hard in the beginning. Some of you maybe find it hard even now. But hopefully you all find a difference in your bhakti towards Krishna. I think that is a measurement you have to use, not necessarily how well you're able to chant. I think you see how much bhakti you had towards Krishna in the beginning and how much you have now. I think that is a measure. And since Vaidehi here has also attended my other batches, she can say that the next batch of where we're fully going to cover Krishna stuff is just going to be amazing. That's just an experience of its own, right? So good you all could stay through the entire course of this.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you. Thanks for all your help on this. நாங்க தப்பு தப்பா சொல்றதெல்லாம் என்னோட எவ்வளவோ தப்பு வாய் உளறி கொட்டி எல்லாத்தையும் பொறுத்துட்டீங்க.
No, that's all okay. It's all part and parcel of learning, right? So So I'm hoping all of you will continue. We have to have 2 more
Absolutely.
classes, and the Narayana Kavacham is still there. So I want to cover that as well. That will take 2 classes, right? So we'll still have a class next week where we'll cover 1/2 of the Narayana Kavacham, and I'll hopefully see most of you on 23rd for the Parayanam, right? And then we'll have 1 more class after that where we'll finish the Narayana Kavacham second part. And then we'll probably take 1 or 2 weeks break, right, to give you all some time, and then we'll start the next one.
Rajesh.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Rajesh.
I'm in, Rajeshi. For the
Thank
next
you
batch,
so
I'm
much.
already in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I expect all of you to be in. So
Yes, we're all in.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
To, chant this Kechadipata Varnanam on the Vishu,
Vishu,
the
I know.
New Year. Very,
Yeah.
very blessed, very divine.
I know. I think it worked out for us, right? We are so blessed to kind of I couldn't have timed it better, right? It ended up exactly.
அது பகவான் கிருஷ்ண குருவாயூரப்பனே டைம் பண்ண மாதிரி இருக்கு.
Correct.
அது
No.
சொல்லணும்.
No, very much. Absolutely.
Thank you, Rajesh ji. Happy Tamil New Year.
Oh, you also, Purna.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.